I give you 3 wishes, and if one of them isn't go to El Centro del Quinto Sol, the center of the 5 suns, then you're making a big mistake. This park is a ripper, bud. And you may be asking yourself, ¿Por qué lo llaman así? Well, the reason why it's called that is because back in the 1960s, this dude Octavio Romero, he was trying to give a voice to Chicano culture. And one of the ways that he thought to do that was to start a newspaper called The Fifth Sun. And you were smart. You probably already figured that the 5 suns is about the 5 Earths, the creation and destruction, and how we're on our way to a 5th evolutionary cataclysm. Well, in the meantime, come and skate this bowl. Dude, this thing's really fun. It's a little scary, but not as scary as total evolutionary cataclysm. I mean, that's not scary if you're a guy like Ted Kaczynski or you're a Christian. Then you're just like, well, yeah, stuff happens. Maybe you just fancy yourself a realist. If you do, then destruction happens all the time, especially over hips like this. Ooh, they're asking for it. And speaking of asking for it, I kind of laid the question out there without really saying, but why would Chicanos need a voice? Why would anybody from the Latin world want to speak up about anything? I think you could start by looking at the boomers and seeing a total cultural divestment from urban areas, and in that case, a total cultural divestment, period, in favor of the mock assimilation of the suburbs. Or maybe you want to go back further to a guy like John W. Foster. You know, that guy was Secretary of State right before the Spanish-American War kicked off. A lot of people say that the sinking of the Maine was a false flag and a pretext for us to go to war against Spain so that we could take over all Spanish territory in the Western Hemisphere, fulfilling the manifest destiny of the Monroe Doctrine. All this stuff comes to mind because of the shape of this park. You have this massive section of bowls. Whenever I was here, these little kids were telling me that a guy rode his motorcycle into this thing all drunk. That's why you see all that powdery floor dry on the bottom of there. Wild stuff happens at this park apparently. But the shape of this park is in these 2 mega huge sections. One is this bowl section where you have these beautiful curves and this lime green tile. And then there's another section that's massive street section. It's kind of like a North and South America sort of thing. And in the center you have this temple to the sun. Ain't nothing of an establishment of a state religion. All this Masonic imagery kind of puts me to sleep. I look at it and I think, there's no way that this was happening all over the world at the same time. A lot of that stuff looks planted to me. Let me get back to my point about manifest destiny. Foster used his power and influence to get the State Department and the Bank of New York to buy a controlling interest in the country of Haiti. Over the next 50 years or so, that country was occupied by the United States military. Got to consider also Hawaii and the rest of the Pacific island chains were occupied by the military-industrial complex. So when people tell you that World War II and the military buildup got us out of the Depression, big surprise, that's not true. So while Stephen Foster was doing all this, his son-in-law got a job at a new department called the Center of Secret Intelligence. That later became the CIA. The CIA during the Kennedy administration was headed up by a guy named Allen Dulles. His brother, John Foster Dulles, was the Secretary of State. They continued this rampage of American exceptionalism known as Manifest Destiny. First, they went to Guatemala in 1953 and they replaced the farmer's advocate Jacob Arbenz with a CIA plant. Then in 1960, they went to Ecuador. Then they went to Ecuador again in 63 because the first one wasn't good enough. Just like in the Dominican Republic in 60, they went in there and replaced it with the Democratic Socialists. And then they replaced that guy with a right authoritarian in 1966. In 64, they replaced a pro-communist in Brazil. Dude, have you been looking at this park? This place is awesome. Lots of ledges, lots of hips, lots of rails, lots of everything. This place is gorgeous. Stands in stark contrast to what happens next. The CIA started up something they called Operation Condor. The plan was to replace Soviet-friendly governments with right authoritarian dictators. And they started in Bolivia in 1971 with material support from the United States. This dude Banzer, who they put in there, he ran terrorist campaigns against his own citizens. Then in 73, Nixon started an economic war with Chile. He replaced Allende with Pinochet. I'm sure you remember him from the throw the socialists off the helicopters memes. Well, there was a socialist up in Argentina. He's the Pope now. You know, he wouldn't have been a Pope except for the Argentine Dirty War. That was facilitated by Henry Kissinger. Lots of convoluted stuff. Not real simple and elegant like the ledges on top of these hips. But they got themselves all twisted up in 79 when the CIA got involved with the Contra rebels. They gave the Contras guns and the Contras gave the CIA drugs. Those drugs came into the inner cities and became the crack epidemic. Don't even mention that they came through me in Arkansas, and that's how Bill Clinton secured his place as the 41st president of the United States? Well, before that, Reagan went and invaded Panama. And since then, Clinton, Bush, Obama, and Trump have all tried to replace Maduro in Venezuela. What a bunch of dickheads, right? That's some strange art for a playground. You can use the bathroom here or at the laundromat. All I'm saying is 100 years of political economic warfare against the region makes you want to just get an ice cream cone and dip it in candy. This place was absolutely delicious. Come down to this park, you will not regret it. Manifest your own destiny, or hey, just forget it. I'll see you before you know it, sweetheart. Mwah!